Good evening. It is Monday, May 15th. We are on our last official Lincoln PTO meeting of the year. And in the room, we have Miss Lawler,
Kelly, Megan,
Secretary, Treasurer, Susan Barani, Charlene Santa, Laura, Amanda, Spider-Man. And this is our guest Bert. Hello. And on the line, we have Miss Manfredi, Miss Monroe, and prom queen Rilda Kissel. Okay, great. We're going to jump right into it. We have a guest tonight. And then at the end, we also wanted to talk about fifth grade activities for fourth grade, potential fifth grade, future fifth grade parents, and how all the things are. Okay, great. We're going to start with a Lincoln leadership update. Anything new?
hello, everyone. Nothing new other than our long list of upcoming dates of all the exciting events that are coming up for all of your students over the next month and a half. This was in the newsletter last week and this week, and we'll just keep it going so that you can have it and have access to it. The spring concert is tomorrow night. Then we have DPW Day on Thursday. Wednesday is Community Readers Day and Nature's Classroom for fifth grade. So that's this week, some of the things that are coming up that are exciting. Obviously, fifth grade has a lot of activities planned, so those will be coming as well. Step up day for kindergarten, moving on ceremony for fifth grade, all wonderful and exciting things that we are really looking forward to. So that's kind of where we're at. I can't remember if I shared the last meeting that the Chromebooks that were purchased by the PTO, by all of you, have arrived in the district. They are in the IT department and they will be configured and then eventually delivered here to Lincoln. So thank you to everyone in your generosity for funding that for this school so that we will officially have one-to-one distribution of Chromebooks next year. So thank you. So that's exciting. So
Thank you.
yes.
And then I noticed Memorial Day is also on here. So there is a Memorial Day parade that will be coming online soon. If you or your student would like to participate in marching in the parade, I will be your parade major. Something I love. Also, other elementary schools who have students who would like to not all of them have a parade master. So we might be marching all together this year, which would be really fun. So we'll see how it goes. We got a few weeks, but if you or your student would like to march, preferably together.
Was it just an email today, I think,
Oh, great.
with in the PTO email with like the list of events. So I think people are like invited to breakfast and then
Oh.
there's like the schedule of events. I think it starts at like 1 or
Okay.
something.
I will send out information. Thank you.
Is it on Monday?
Yep.
Is it Monday
Sunday.
or Sunday?
I don't know. I will be wherever I need to be at whenever I need to be there. Okay, great. It'll be on Sunday. Yeah. Remember Memorial Day parade? No, because it was yesterday. Okay, awesome. But yes, I'm happy to march with the kids and we'll take it from there. So, okay, cool. So great. Thank you.
Maybe Mr. Manfredi can share the visit that we had today, Mr. Manfredi, that you organized for our fifth grade.
Yeah, so we can everybody hear me?
Yep.
We were lucky enough to be joined by Brian Corrigan and Christopher Beaver, who are the assistant principals at the high school. And they've visited a few of the elementary schools so far this year to talk with fifth grade classes about some, important topics that kind of don't always get addressed by everybody. A lot of race related things, being good friends to one another in different ways that don't always come to the forefront of your mind as a fifth grader. So I think it was an important conversation to have with all of them. And I was able to join two of the fifth grade classes. I missed Miss Monroe's, but I heard they were wonderful. But I've heard some good feedback from people, some things they'd like included next year. And they were very happy to be a part of kind of helping not only expand the amount of adults that they'll be knowing in the district if they do make their way to the high school, but also to help deliver some important messages, I think, to our kiddos. And I know Miss Monroe probably got a lot of questions, but the 5th grade teachers did a great job prepping our kids. They shared slides. It was wonderful. And if any parents are interested in seeing the slides, Mr. Corrigan and Mr. Beaver both said that they were more than happy to share them and connect with anybody who had any further questions or wanted them to join us again for another conversation.
Ms. Monroe, do you have anything you'd like to add since you were there? Thank you. Sorry.
I really appreciate that the event was organized because I think it was a very important conversation for many of our students to be a part of. And they actually, I was only present, of course, for my class, but they actually did a really great job engaging with the 2 assistant principals from the high school, and they asked really great questions. They overall did a really great job participating. I was really impressed, and I think it's going to open up good dialogue for the rest of the year.
So I've heard this had happened, but do you think this is something that if happens again could happen earlier in the year? Do you feel like there's enough education in there that could help prevent harm before it happens?
I think there's.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
definitely think so. I think this can be ongoing work that we'll do not only with our 5th graders, but kind of thinking globally in different pockets for our whole school. I think it's important, obviously, and I think done in the right way can kind of help us to grow full students, not just great readers and writers and mathematicians, but I think the earlier we can introduce these types of conversations and not make our teachers feel like they need to be the ones who are experts in this, I think is also an important thing.
And did it cover issues of race and other?
Yeah, a lot of different things in terms of kind of appropriate ways to ask questions of people who are a different race than you, what your role should be as a person who doesn't feel great about questions that you're getting, or they talked about the topic of hair for a little bit and kind of what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. And they talked a little bit about, what are appropriate things to say that you've seen online that are not appropriate. We're having a lot of that with a lot of our 5th graders who are now exploring the internet and YouTube and all that. And I think it was kind of a good way. I have my own notes written for it that I think we'll kind of take for next year too. And I definitely think it could be done in smaller chunks and kind of a lesson planned type way that definitely starting earlier next year, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at the Hoover, there was also discussions maybe with these 2 administrators or others around, again, word choice and understand.
That was part of it too.
And understanding other types of students, LGBTQ students, the intersectionality of all of that, religion and so on. Did they cover that yesterday or today?
Yeah, and they did a good job explaining intent versus impact and kind of why that's important and how we might not know as 5th graders that the words we the words we use have different meaning or may have different impact to different people, and why that is something we should be mindful of. But yeah, a lot of it was on word choice and,
I think one of the specific things I remember from the lesson was they talked about the word gay, using the word gay, and what that might mean to someone else if you use it. Like I think he used as an example, this math test is so gay or something like that. And he said, what word that word, what that impact that has on other people. And they kind of talked about that. And the kids did a really good job. He did a turn and talk and had the kids write down and then share amongst themselves. And then they all shared out loud too, what they thought that would mean to other people. So that's just one example of how they kind of brought that conversation in. It was interesting.
Great. Any questions?
Chris Robinson here. You mentioned the possibility of getting access to those slides or any notes of that. How would we go about, or any individual or class?
If you personally would like to send me an email, I'm more than happy to get them over to you. But I wanted to see a kind of a collaborative way that we could get it as a resource if people wanted to further that discussion with their own children, at the dinner table or whatever it might be. So we're working on that right now.
Excellent, thank you. Without the old PowerPoint slides over breakfast.
That is potentially something that the classroom teacher could share out with a classroom distribution list proactively. And, parents can continue conversations at home. I think that, not a lot of detail comes home all the time about how was your day? Anything new, anything exciting, anything really good, bad? Like, you don't get a lot most days. My house. So, I mean, if that's an option, I think that's fantastic, that there's like a proactive share. I know a lot of classroom teachers are good about that, but I think many parents probably wouldn't even know to ask for the slide, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that feedback. And I think looking towards next year and future presentations, I think we would definitely release things in pockets so that we can kind of build on them as we go, if that makes sense. But yeah, I totally understand that.
This is Chris here, just one more thing, and it's a deeper conversation. This is not like a baking show, right? It is likely that you probably get some pushback from some parents for having that conversation in the classroom. So I'm just saying out loud that we're also mindful of that, and that we would like to be a part of the support for that kind of transparency, because there's also pushback for that too.
For sure, for sure.
Share the love.
Yeah, and I think to go along with that, absolutely, and I think that so much can be solved with proactive communication. To be a parent who, oh, I didn't know that conversation was had.
Right.
But you can have a conversation if you know what's happening.
The opportunity to have the conversation versus not having the opportunity.
So I think it's a win.
Yeah.
Communication is a win.
It's a win. Use your glass.
Well, I do appreciate Ms. Manfred, you bringing it here because I know it was developed in response something that was happening in another elementary school, and I'm glad we were able to scale the effectiveness of administrators from other schools with perspective and experience coming here for our kids. So hopefully it continues to scale.
Just out of curiosity, like, where so many of our kids are now going to middle school, was there any talk of having the middle school administrators have those conversations, or I'm just curious about how
So
that-
we did have middle school administrators come visit our school recently, but for not the same conversations. I do know, as someone who's worked with both Brian and Christopher at the high school, that they are good resources for this, and that their presentation, I thought, could be modified in kind of an organic way for our needs at our school. And I do know the middle school administrators have a lot coming their way next year, especially from the Lincoln. So I wanted to make sure that we dipped into some resources we have district-wide that I know have already started this kind of conversation and kind of tailor it to what our needs might be, and a little bit different than a different school, I guess. Fair question. I had asked because I've worked with them on similar things. I was on the district's, DEI team. And I think that Brian and Christopher both have been, great leaders in the district who are well-versed and comfortable having conversations like this with a whole different boatload of types of kids. And I thought it could be worked on and modified for us.
I think it's great. I think it's very positive and important. I would say that there's so much more to be done, quite frankly. I'm very worried about my fifth grader going to the middle school based on an older sibling I have, and just the behaviors and the language and the social media. And I feel like even the technology class that the kids have once a week, I feel like there's so much more opportunity to really, I don't think we're addressing what the kids are really exposed to, which is a little bit scary because, I mean, I consider myself pretty involved in my children's experience and what they're exposed to and stuff like that, but it's, you're not really prepared. So I think that like a one-time today is a step in the right direction, but I think it's something that really needs to be interwoven quite a bit, especially for 5th grade. And then, I mean, really just down the track, because the technology exposure and what they're doing and able to do and the lack of knowledge we have as adults, it's a lot. But I think that kids are really vulnerable in a totally different way that we're not really addressing. So that, and it's again, no criticism on you or the high school administration or the middle school administration that came in. I know they came to visit and whatnot, but I do think that we're focused on the math, we're focused on the reading and the writing and the social emotional to an extent, but I think there's a whole other layer that we're missing.
I agree with you. Something that's helped me with framing what needs more attention, that coming in is for some of these, conversation, it's a drop in the bucket. We already know that, given that these is a larger conversation. I think we can do what we've been doing well and a little bit more, which is the content we've been bringing in through the PTO has been specifically scaffolding conversations about Indigenous communities, the kind of particular social justice music, and then the content on public speaking, all of that we can actually correlate to how capable those kids were in having the conversation today. So all of that was primer. So I think we can also elevate the vocabulary that we've been doing, and then wash, how do you say that, rinse and repeat, and then augment it as well. So I agree we need to do that, but also see that these things that we've been doing as well, it worked, because that's why they were able to have that conversation and then do more of it with intention.
Great, thank you. Good. Okay, cool, thank you. Okay, thank you again, Mr. Manfredi.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. All right. So board transition.
Updated, no.
Pretty much.
So we held an election. It's good. You're gonna be okay. No one, hi. We didn't have any volunteers, no volunteers step forward for the board at this time. Kelly has committed to staying on, Kiara's committed to staying on. Megan will get strong arm to staying on. But if anyone else is interested at any point in time, it's a really fun board. So I can't recommend it enough. We had a good time. Our board meetings were always fun, usually at Santa Fe. And a lot of really good work happens on the board. So I consider it if you're up for it. And
even if you don't have the time to be on the board, but want to pick a one-time event and chair like a committee, that would really help too, because 2 of us can't do everything next year. So a lot of stuff will not be done if there are people that won't step up.
yeah.
As a person, sorry, my voice is gone, so I'm gonna try. As a personal note, the treasurer job is a great job, but it does require 2 people. So if anybody is interested in helping out with things like writing checks or even just do behind the scene without like a full commitment to the board or to an event, that would be absolutely incredible, because it is a whole lot of time.
Yep. I can also say running to the bank is thrilling.
Yeah.
That was a lie. Okay. Going to the bank is really not that hard. But okay, great. So this is my last official meeting. Oh my God, but that's okay. You know where I live. All right. Last month, there were popsicle sales, and over the weekend, we had our first annual parent prom. Do you want to talk about pops first, or anybody can talk about pops?
Popsicles,
Yeah.
they are very lucrative. If anyone needs cash, that's the way to go. Which I did advertise that at the parent prom, as a matter of fact. Money. We're making, last week, I think we made $292 on popsicles. We have 2 more weeks to go. 5th grade is really trying to close the gap on our budget, which we're coming very close. So, they're
over $500.
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's all. Yeah.
I love it.
I know the kids are so excited.
Yes.
That was successful too.
Yes, that was really good. That made over $400.
Yeah.
So, and it was a warm day.
Yeah.
It was
Below
warm day.
zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we figured it out. Some giant urns. Didn't sound like a warm weather paradise.
No, it
No,
didn't.
it's not allowed to mix online.
Yeah.
Great.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, we cracked the EDS code on selling things to EDS after school.
Oh, that would be excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rilda, are you still there? Do you want to give a recap of the parent prom, mom prom? Is she still here? Oh, wait, there she is.
Good. Yeah, sorry. The prom was on Friday at the VFW. My dream of some moms liquored up, eating fruit by the foot, dancing to Destiny's Child came true. So I'm all set on mute. But just kidding. It was really fun. A lot of people couldn't show up, like, things came up for people, so the numbers were lower than I would have liked. But I think that there's a lot of buzz. And we've set like a tone if we want to do it again next year. And the best news is we actually made money. So we did not lose money. And leftover mom prom snacks were brought to the teachers lounge today. So I hope they saw some of that stuff, and it was really fun. And I think that if folks want to do it again next year, I'd be happy to share my wisdom, and I would love to do it again when my daughter's in 5th grade. But it was really fun. So thank you for those of you that played along and came.
Awesome. Thank you for putting it together. Our first annual prom queen, Rilda Kissel. So for upcoming events, as Lori mentioned, there's an extensive list that is in everyone's email, which includes things like the spring concerts tomorrow, reading days Wednesday, nature's classroom. A few more, there's a new bake sale on the 18th. DBW Days back, ELL in-person family meet, and so on and so on. So they're all, if you're, we share this agenda can be found on our website as well as in the notes for this meeting. And the whole list will be in Lori's email as well. So you can't.
Spring
There-
concert tomorrow
Yeah.
is important.
Mhm.
Everyone needs to go to that. There's the ice cream social, which the teachers requested. So that's
Yeah.
why we're doing that on May 31st. And then there's open house on June 1st. And then there's the field day on the 9th, which we will need lots of volunteers for. The 8th is the 5th grade moving on, well, step up day and moving on. Parents don't need to be involved in the step up day, but the moving on you would go to. And then the last day of school is the 15th. And it's a noon dismissal. And we need to make sure that parents are here, 5th grade parents are here super early. Because last year they missed.
Oh,
the
that's
kids
right.
Coming out, and there was like crying parents, because they
Yes.
missed their kid coming out the door, and if
I-
I miss my child, there will be.
Um,
Yeah, we'll be going in the front door and coming back out.
So another thing that we're breaking ground on this year is collaborating with other PTOs at our other elementary schools. So we are purchasing at steep discount field day shirts that will be the same shirts as the Hoover and the Winthrop. Hopefully more will join on next year, but wouldn't that be cool? If citywide, all the elementary schools have the same shirt. I think so. Anyway, breaking ground. Okay.
So just to, on top of what Kelly said, for field day, we need a whole lot of volunteers. There's going to be more than 20 stations, and we usually ask for a couple of parents to help with each station. So if anybody, could just spread the word, the sign up sheet online, the link, I'll be probably posting it pretty much every single day from now until the 8th. So the more the merrier. It's a very fun day. So it would be great to have a lot of volunteers to help us run it as smooth as possible.
Thank you. Excellent. And thank you to Ms. Happy for pulling it all together with all of us. So thank you, everybody.
Yes.
And there will be slush.
No blue stuff.
No blue. Richie's will be on hand we'll be on hand with Richie's slush to hand out to the kids during the kickball game. So they stay occupied while the game is going on. So slush is back. And
Are you sourcing it through Richie's? or
yes,
just- Oh, okay.
yep.
The location in Everett.
That's for the check.
Oh. Great. Anything else? Thank you, Megan, for the bulletin boards. I noticed that they've changed in May. Megan is, if you haven't seen the API boards up this month, and then June is Pride. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to our friend Bert. Do you mind sitting here? Is that all right? Okay. Great. So Bert is here. I'll let him introduce himself, but as a member of this community, I have run into Bert on several occasions, and every time I feel more enlightened. So I hope he does that all for you tonight, but no obligation, no pressure.
No pressure. Well, I was reminded, listening to all the conversation about fifth grade, about this time last year, I was working with Margaret Adams and Jessica Patty doing the puberty video.
Yes.
So there was some major revisions last year, and checking in with sixth graders this year, they thought the changes were all for the good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have a feeling they may be tweaking it this year. I don't know, but I got good reviews about last year.
Sorry, Bert, is that a program that's done in fifth grade or sixth grade?
Fifth grade. At the end of fifth, have they done it?
They
yet?
haven't done it yet. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I know, right?
it's one of those things that sort of just happened, but they send out emails and things, right?
Right, right. I haven't heard a date yet when they're doing it, and it's usually done in connection with Jane Happy during for like she'll kind of do the wellness piece of it. And I'm not sure, there's been talk whether they do it individual class or if they do it all together. So we're not sure yet how they're doing it.
It's pretty well scripted for whoever's doing it. There was quite an order to things, and there was a video that was inclusive, so people didn't feel excluded. And as I say, there were good reviews in general. So from the great critics themselves.
Not an easy topic.
No. Can I add just one other thing about this? Sorry to divest on this. So it was after years and superintendents of advocacy did this curriculum finally evolve.
Yeah, and it happened, I think, there was that pressure, but I think when some parents specifically addressed the issue last spring, it really did, the switch got turned, and yeah, everyone was wanting to get it right.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. So thanks again.
and we reached out to people, and Lexington, Barnstable, at the Safe Schools for LGBTQ Youth from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So there was a lot of sourcing to make it work. And I think the people on staff did a great job. So today I met with, I am one of the advisors in the middle school GSA. The GSA used to be the Gay Straight Alliance. It is now the Gender Sexuality Alliance. And more letters, but the same letters, GSA. So, and I asked the kids, I said, I'm going to be at an elementary PTO tonight. What would you like me to tell them? What do they need to know? And many of them said, tell them that the GSA is a great thing for kids who want to be who they are in middle school. So I'm passing that message on to you. But then there was one student who, an 8th grader, who said, tell them that if they have kids who are struggling to figure out who they are, support them.
Mhm.
And when I deal with teachers, that's my message, is your job is to support students, all students. And the way to support LGBTQ plus students is to acknowledge that you recognize who they are. And just that recognition is amazingly powerful. When I work with teachers, it's usually for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But in that time, the message they hear over and over again is support. If parents aren't supporting, then teachers need to be extra supporting. And I can give you all kinds of data about what happens when parents don't support kids. And you already know from YRBS that elevation, depression, anxiety is elevated as a result of the pandemic. But when you're looking at LGBTQ numbers, those numbers are even greater. I can't recall in Melrose, but I did a presentation in Wakefield and the numbers were very similar to Melrose, but it was for cisgender straight kids, high school kids and middle school kids. The numbers were in the mid-30s, 30% were feeling more stress, anxiety, and depression. With LGBTQ plus kids, those numbers were in the 70 to 75% range. And it's largely because they don't have access, they didn't have access to the support that they need to feel like things are okay. So that being involved with the GSA, and I was a former teacher at the middle school, retired in 2017, but out of my involvement with the GSA, and when we started the GSA, by the way, which was 7 or 8 years ago now, I guess, in Massachusetts, there were 7 middle schools that had GSAs. A year later, there were 77 middle schools. So we kind of got them at the right time. But out of my involvement with the GSA, we had a meeting of middle school parents, some of whom were very curious about what was going on in the GSA. And out of that grew well, at that meeting, one parent said, gee, I wish we had a parent group like that. So another Melrose resident who is a teacher at the Stoneham Middle School, and I started a group called EPiC Melrose. And that is a parent group, a group for parents of LGBTQ plus youth. everyone from preschool to post-grad, you know, in their probably early 20s is the oldest group represented in among our parents. So, and it's largely a group that is a support group. People get together and just kind of share what's on their mind. And often we see parents come in and say, this is happening. I'm not sure I understand what's going on, but I want to do the right thing. And there's an outpouring of love right at that moment with parents saying, oh yeah, I know, went through the same thing with my kid, and this is how we handle it. This is what's going on now. There's a lot of networking going on. So it's a great opportunity for parents to get that support that they need. Because I often say to folks, I don't think parents, look at a newborn baby and say, gee, I wonder if this kid will grow up to be transgender, or I wonder if this kid will grow up to be gay. Parents that do that, I think, are probably pretty unusual. They're more often to say, I think, what kind of job is this kid going to end up in? What's their college track going to look like? Things like that. So if we can provide some support for parents who need it, then we're doing our job. Sometimes we can do a little bit of programming. So last year, I think it was, or maybe the year before, we had a group, it was actually online, so it was during the pandemic. We had folks from the University of Massachusetts Law School come in and talk to parents about what they needed to do to change their kid's passport or driver's license. They talked a little bit about birth certificates and what can be done there. And so, and that was, a lot of people were interested in that because a lot of people at the time had kids who were, the family was expecting to travel, so they needed passports, and they wanted the passport to represent who the child was. So things like that, if we hear that there's a need, and parents will say, gee, I wish we could find out about this, I wish we could do that. We try to make that happen. So that's basically what EPiC Melrose does. EPiC was a name we borrowed from NAGLY. NAGLY is the North Shore Alliance for Gay, Lesbian Youth and Transgender Youth. And they have a group for parents called EPiC. And when I talked to the head of EPiC, he's now retired, but the director of NAGLY was on a MAVE committee with me. So he said, gee, why don't we collaborate? Why don't you become a satellite of NAGLY's EPiC group, which is what we did. We have actually very little connection with them at this point, but the name has stuck. So I guess I'm happy to take questions, but I wanted to finish up by saying, if everybody could do what's on that little poster over there, 10 ways to be kind, we'd be a lot further ahead, a lot of ways, not just in schools, but in discourse in our country. So I have some books here that if anyone's beginning to think about, or their child is beginning to talk about identity and it's not making a lot of sense to you, one book that I consistently hear parents recommend, don't tell me I didn't bring it with me. Here it is. Becoming Nicole.
Hmm.
It's a great book about Nicole Maines, who's now about 26, 27 years old. For a few years, she was a co-star on ABC's Supergirl. She was the first transgender actress to portray a transgender superhero. So, but her story is just extraordinary. She has some TED Talks that you can find on YouTube. So I recommend this book highly. If anyone knows of someone who would be interested in our parent group, I have some brochures if you'd like to. I can leave these with you. I'll leave it at that. There is, we talked about the puberty thing. This is a highly recommended book that is inclusive. And it's pretty good.
But it's right.
As with all books, I would say, get it, take a look at it before you just start sharing it with your child.
Yes.
Everybody approaches these subjects from somewhat different perspectives, and what one person is comfortable with, someone else might not be. So
So a while back, we talked about professional development for our teaching staff. Do you know where that is, or?
I think I'm doing a professional development day with teachers in late June. And I was told it will go from 8:30 or 9 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. So it's a good long time.
Is it mandatory or?
No, I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think those things are.
No, PD after school is voluntary. People sign up for it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you do the, sorry, the acronym, I'm not gonna get it right, but the after school.
GSA.
Okay, GSA. So, which people would obviously need to be comfortable, like go into that meeting and whatnot. Are there any, and this goes back to my original concern, are there any conversations with the middle school staff about conversations for all students during the actual school day about sensitivity and language that can be offensive and anything that you're aware of
Yeah.
happening?
I know that there have been times when various issues have been addressed. I know they've done it in large assemblies, and I know they've done it in their teen time and I think their flex time. I'm not in the building a lot. I'm there, well, sometimes I'm there a lot. This past April, we did a day of silence. So kids could opt to be silent for that day to recognize that there are members of the LGBTQ community whose voices have been silenced. So we did that. There were, I think, 36 kids who participated. Some of them with greater degrees of success at remaining silent than others, but it was, for those who participated, I think it was a meaningful time. Specifically, I don't know what issues may have been addressed and what haven't.
So it's more like if an issue comes up, then it's kind of addressed.
I think so.
Okay.
I know there was something maybe in January or maybe after the winter break, I think, where there was some peer-led discussions about various issues. So, yeah, I'm not on top of that. So I do meet weekly with the GSA, and I hear what's going on a lot, but I can't sort of get out into the classrooms and see what's happening.
I just wonder from a parent perspective, what may be helpful in that area to do more proactive, because again, I firmly believe in proactive here, and this is a very hot topic, obviously. Again, I hear a lot of negative comments and every single day, multiple classes. And so when you hear the numbers of the depression and the anxiety, it's very concerning, and I just wonder what's kind of being done.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, everyone I've talked to, from the superintendent down to, I mean, I had a conversation today with a teacher as they were leaving the building, and everybody is aware that people aren't doing what's on this little chart over there. So, and I think in my conversations with the 3 administrators, they're really working hard to try to get a handle on things, to try to figure out what is going to work, what isn't going to work. And I can tell you I've been in the districts, Neshoba, Tri-County down in Franklin, Wakefield. I was at I did a presentation in Maryland with the court-appointed special advocates, and everyone I've talked to talks about what's going on with these kids that we're working with, So it's not only Melrose that's struggling with this. I don't think anyone quite imagined what was happening during the pandemic. So.
Chris here. Thank you so much for what you've shared with us. A couple of things for us to all be aware of and maybe act on in terms of being proactive, which I'm all about that too. 2 things. One, you may be aware that there's a coordination for facilitated discussions and training of facilitators to moderate these kinds of difficult conversations across different spaces. It's in partnership with City of Melrose, but it's community members that are helping to organize trainings for individuals to become facilitators. I'm a facilitator, Sam's a facilitator. So when we're strapped for how many administrators can we bounce around the different schools, right? We're actually having a cohort of facilitators that will then expand to be a larger cohort of facilitators to be available to come into schools, public spaces, and facilitate some of those conversations. Specific example, the taboos of this conversation, even in this room, we're using euphemisms to talk about the things and the problems without saying racism, without saying ableism, and just being comfortable to say those words out loud. So our kids will do better doing those things on the side. If we're modeling, but we don't do that, we whisper it. So they don't know how to say those things until, we bring an administrator in. So that's one way we're addressing it directly. It's not the solution, but I just wanted to elevate that. That's one intentional thing that we can do.
Yeah, I think the administrators are great, but I think seeing people from the community, I think can send a really strong message. I'm sorry, I keep.
I got your back.
Yeah, you do.
In case there are any other questions, I would like to say thank you for coming. We've been trying to do this series all year, bringing in folks who support our students outside of this building, and you certainly do that. Is there anything you need us to do to help you?
So much of what I try to accomplish with teachers and with parents when I have conversations with them is to to help normalize the LGBTQ plus community. That it isn't something where someone is going to say, oh, that's so gay. You know, that's, we need to try to get past that. And one way to do that is if kids recognize from their parents and other community members that LGBTQ people are part of our community. They're doing amazing things, just like everybody else is doing amazing things. And, you know, they aren't an anomaly, which is sometimes the message that gets presented when a student makes an unpleasant comment.
One more. Do you know about the bookstore in Assembly Row, All She Wrote?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had great experiences going in there to get books for whatever kind of content. Just picked up another one just the other day. And the author's just talking about climate change. You know, of course, queer identity, but we're just talking about, you know, climate change. So whatever subject matter is coming in, you know, through the course of the week or, you know, whatever profession you're in, you can just pick up one of those books. Okay, let's just talk about the thing that we do that we, you know, are interested in. And by the way, there are the intersectional identities in it. I wish I was getting commission from the bookstore.
That reminds me, we have around the middle school little posters. We're working on some new ones. Sally Ride,
Wow.
astronaut.
Oh.
Celtics, go Celtics. Alan Turing. Those of you who saw the movie with Benedict Cumberbatch, the Enigma machine, he's credited with really helping to speed the end of World War II because he and his computer that he designed, really the father of, credited as being the father of modern computing, was able to break the Nazi code. Gay, probably died either of the medication he was forced to take or he chose to end his life. But because he was at the time in the late, after World War II in the early 50s, it was against the law to act on who you were. So the fact of the matter is when I started looking for, one of the things I want to do is encourage teachers to work LGBTQ people into their curriculum. And so I'm thinking, well, who can do that around math? And I found out there's all kinds of LGBTQ mathematicians who've done some amazing work. And there's a organization called Spectra that is a organization for LGBTQ mathematicians. So, you know, and we can go right down. I found out the other day that King James I, who's known mainly for creating the King James Bible, was at least bisexual and probably gay. So who knew? Yeah. So anyway,
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you. I'll leave those with you.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
I'm so used to doing the online thing. I was about to grab this and take it.
Well, thank you, Bert. Yeah,
You.
appreciate you.
It's nice to see you.
Awesome.
And, I'll keep you in the loop if things develop with the professional development and all of that.
Yeah,
I've had conversations, it seems like people have a appetite for doing this.
good. And I think it was you partnered with somebody at Parent University a few years back
Yeah.
on the your presentation on gender
Yes.
expansion, and expression. That was fantastic. So, it might be something to.
Yeah, we can do that again.
It was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being
Nice to
here.
see you.
Thank you.
All right, great. So we're at 8:02, but now we're gonna stay after class. If you guys prefer.
We're not, we don't have to keep everyone. So we have, an opening for, fifth grade planning committee here on the agenda today, and there's a bunch of us here in person that are ready to gather, and I'm kind of trying to peer into the screen and ask anyone who's still there if they came for the fifth grade planning breakout session. Because if you did, raise your hand in some form or like unmute your face. Someone started saying that. I'm gonna mute my face. You unmute your face, reveal yourself. If you don't want to, you can email myself and Susan. There was a blast that went out today to all the fourth grade parents through a few different mechanisms. Hopefully you got it. If you didn't, my email address is Charlene Sanna, CHARLENE SANNA@gmail.com, and Susan Barani, SS Barani, can you spell that? BARANNYI @ME.com. Anyway, you can look us up online too. Just shoot us a note. We'll make sure you're included in the planning. No one's saying anything, so I think we're just gonna do an in-person breakout session. Yeah.
Do you want
Except quick questions, I think I still see Rhoda, are you still there?
I just put ice cream in my mouth, but yes.
I heard a rumor that you would like to still be involved in the fair, the holiday extravaganza.
Home for the holidays, real.
That is a rumor. No, I'm just kidding. No, Susan, yeah, I'm just kidding. This year there was a little bit confusion because Home for the Holidays was on hiatus because of COVID. So it's a little bit confusion about what role the whole PTO plays versus what role the fifth grade parents play and like how much of the money goes. You were there when we had this conversation. So I'm not sure how that'll all shake out next year, but I'm happy to still help. I work with Julie Unger to get all the vendors. And then I did the wine poll, as you know, because you helped me. And then Kelly, who's there, did a lot of the raffle with some other people, but I'm still happy to help. I just don't know where the distinction will be about what money making things go just to fifth grade versus what things are sort of PTO wide, because that was a little bit gray this year. But I'm happy to help.
At all, just if you and Julie, and actually Julie's a fifth grade parent, a rising fifth grade parent, right? So,
Yeah.
So
You might just want to put in the notes too. We had the great idea of getting solos.
an incredible gift to the fifth grade team, if you're willing to be vendor lead. That was my main question.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. And it just, we had the great idea of doing solo stoves and s'mores. And unfortunately it rained, but I think marshmallows live forever. And I think there's a lot in the PTO closet. So that might be something that you want to put in your notes.
Yeah.
That and it was really easy. I thought the fire department was going to give us pause, but they were really cool about it. So just, it's something you might want to consider because the supplies are already there and it worked well, but it would have worked better if we had a nice weather.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we don't have to go deep into details right now, but it's great to know that you're still sort of willing to chaperone or lead or advise on vendors. That would be ideal.
Yep. Sounds good.
People and the food people need a place to go. So, and this is the place that they want to
They want to
be.
be. Okay.
So regardless of what fifth grade themselves do, I think we have to make, or we should make the Lincoln available to those people who are specifically looking for a place to go and had assumed for 3 years that they were going to be here still. And then we didn't know what was happening. They didn't know what was happening. So a lot of the regulars, quote unquote, ended up finding other places. So we kind of struggled towards the end. So I think this is one of those things we need to say, like, yes, we're doing this in September. We put the call out and say, yes, Lincoln will be open. If this is where you want to go, let us know. Because we won't necessarily be struggling for as many, I think.
Yeah, definitely reach out to we'll reach out to vendors early as possible. And my other advice is we should not sell wreaths or any sort of greenery because the wreath market is strong that day. And like 2 churches were selling wreaths and kissing balls and trees. And I ended up with a lot of dying wreaths in my yard. So I don't know if you can think of something else to sell, but I would not recommend wreaths again.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah, and just one last thing on that. So we wanted to Kelly's point about making sure that Home for the Holidays stays at a certain level regardless of class. Whatever you all decide to do for that, but what the 5th grade committee did with the extra things, we were able, thanks to our amazing treasurer, to know how much each thing made, bake sale, craft, all these things, how much all these things made. And then after we decided as a board to motion for an X number of dollars to be donated to the 5th grade cause. So it pretty much came out to what the things the 5th grade covered, but we didn't, it was getting a little confusing on the beginning of like, is it a percentage? Is it the whole thing? Is it what? Because without precedence, we just were kind of making it up. So we decided, let's just see how it goes. And then the 5th grade families to work their buns off. We motioned for X number of dollars to go to them. That's how we figured that out at the end. I think it just worked.
I think it ended up working pretty well, you know, we just, I think in the end, we like cover costs and whatever was left over pretty much went to 5th grade. It could be the same thing next year. It could be, if you want to make it a more collaborative effort, if 5th grade doesn't feel like taking over the whole thing. Sorry, but
Yeah, because even the bake sale and
could, like,
yeah,
we could talk for, you know,
Yeah,
because
the big sale in here was definitely beyond just 5th grade families.
Right.
So the whole thing didn't, all the profit did not go to 5th grade, but a percentage did. So,
right, so there is I mean, I think there are like strategies that we can, you know, employ. I think one of the things we talked and then we kind of like dropped was to get in tickets instead of having like different pay station, kind of like, is it Horseman does in here and there? And so if we could opt for something like that and we could talk about percentage at that point. So, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter if it goes towards the bake sale, the s'mores or the merchandise or whatever, but then it's gonna be percentage. I think there is a conversation can be had, can be.
yeah.
So did you identify like a 5th grade budget at the beginning of the year and then try to make that money? Or did you like have the fundraisers and then spend what, like based on what you made? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we had a budget. We went through all the stuff that we did last year and had it's about $10,000 is what we're doing this year. And then and then we
That is that an increase? That seems like more than.
It seems like double what I had with Phil. What we had with Phil.
we
So-
did nothing. I mean, that was.
Well, yeah, that was
Yeah.
here.
It
But-
was, so it includes the Duckbo tour, teacher's classroom, yearbooks, t-shirts, the moving on ceremony.
The
enrichment budget.
Right.
It's
included in the $10,000.
Right.
But it
So
was
the-
covered by the
right,
PTO
would be a lot,
enrichment.
right.
I shared our budget with Susan. It's still ongoing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's going to, and we plan to put all of the information that we've gathered in a more organized form for you guys with
Yeah.
contact information for people and, you know, how do you get buses for the duck tours and, you know, how do you do that and all of that, people we talk to,
And we have
Wait.
notes from last year too.
yes.
To use, so we'll just kind of compile it
Yeah.
all so you have it.
Right,
to
so we'll
put back.
have like the activities and the items, basically the expenses, and then the fundraisers and contributions on the other side. So we were kind, it was sort of been sort of like we knew that we had these expenses and we've had to make some decisions, you know, at the end of the popsicles, which is kind of our last bit of money coming in. We have extra, we might be able to add a couple of smaller things, but
Oh, class gift is a big
class
one.
gift, yeah, there's.
What are you doing for the class gift?
So we're hoping to do a little free library with the bench attached to it. We're still waiting on the DPW. Yeah, thanks, Lori's been
communicating with them. It's a bit of a process, but if it
Can I
has to be
laugh
done over
from-
the summer, we can do it over the summer.
Yeah.
We budgeted for that.
Yeah, the lower grades can all ask them. Thursday, and we go for the PW day.
Because we're hoping to put it out by the Kindness Rock Garden.
Oh,
that
yeah, that's a good
area.
spot.
We did have the students fill out a Google form, the fifth graders.
Yeah.
But we sort of went in a different direction. We were done it differently.
Yeah.
They picked 3 things that have already happened. So we were like, we don't need another buddy bench. We
Right.
don't need a lucky costume.
Yeah, yeah. that's
Right,
what-
technically you are getting another buddy bench. It's just
Yeah.
not gonna be in the top lot.
Right. At first, they don't even go in.
I can't. No, but I mean, yeah,
But to the,
possible.
I think Laura mentioned to the budget, so that in that 10,000 was enrichment, which
Right.
was covered
Pretty big.
by the general PTO budget. It
Yeah.
was the field trip, which is
Right.
partly covered by the PTO budget. So
Right.
that's
And
a
the
big part of it.
contribution from home for the holidays.
Right.
And
So-
whatever you guys motion.
So
At the end of the day, have you had to ask parents to supplement the duck boat tour? So no, essentially fifth grade parents beyond their generous
They're not paying for
contributions to
anything,
all the fundraising are not then paying for like the duck boat tour or Nature's Sky.
That's what
So
we were
that's a-
hoping. We were really
yeah.
hoping not to have anyone pay for
Yeah.
any of the end of the year
Yeah.
things. And we're
Yeah.
almost there. And we have 18 chaperones for the
Oh,
duck
wow.
tour. So,
Yeah.
on future request, we added more recently, which I think will be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all covered as well, even chaperones. So
Okay.
we're happy to,
Yeah.
that is working out.
Yeah.
So that when you did like mom prom or whatever, did you used like that money to pay for like the rental or whatever, and then.
Mom Prom was a rogue event that I sort of did as a crazy person. So I just rolled the dice and Sam, Sam is a member of the VFW. So she booked the VFW and I rolled the dice that we would make enough money to cover Sam. And if not, I was gonna do it out of pocket because that's how strong I believed in Mom Prom. And we covered the VFW and all of the snacks and made some additional money. So no money changed hands from the PTO. It's just gonna be from my account that I collected on Eventbrite back to Laura and Amanda and PTO with the profit.
And like last year, they did an art, it was gonna be Follow Your Art Parent Fundraiser event,
yeah.
but they did.
It was,
Oh.
Alex Van Meter did an event at the Worklery. with parent- It was good. It was teaching us how to make prints and you pay a certain price and there were drinks and snacks and a little social event. So that was one thing we had on our radar. We didn't end up going with that. We did a Kennedy's fundraiser, which was, that's an easy kind of thing. So some of them are easier than others. Popsicles are great.
Yeah.
We were even suggesting you do them in the fall and spring.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Give you a little boost of money right at the beginning of the year, if that's helpful.
I think we have to be mindful of kind of getting away from things like Kennedy's and stuff, because I keep hearing, like, even I went into Buckaloo's to buy a present for a teacher and she was like, are you asking for more? And I was like, I'm not asking for anything. I'm gonna buy it, I promise. But I think they're just getting inundated with every school. And I feel bad being like, I know you just did Horace Mann and Hoover and this, but can you do Lincoln too? And it's
Sure,
like,
yeah.
so I don't know if we should partner with them and have like 2 nights a year and then every school like splits it or something, just so we're not asking them every week, like, can you give us 20% of your profit or something? I don't know. You know what I mean?
I was affiliated with 3 Kennedy fundraisers in the same week.
Yeah. it's-
Like I was getting like, advertised, like because high school, middle school and elementary like related organizations.
Yeah.
Crazy. And they're so generous. Yeah, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that thanks to Lisa Lewis at the Bridge, she was able to pull together PTO presidents and vice presidents across the district, including Franklin. And that was when we were able to meet with other folks and try to find ways to collaborate. So there is also interest from the Winthrop families and probably others to do a citywide PTO event to raise money for all of
I'm just
us.
mindful of, or we just have to be mindful of things being split evenly and picking events, like something like a Winthrop Open is not going to appeal
No,
to this,
yeah.
like.
But even
group
if
of
there
people.
were,
We used to have a golf thing here.
But I think a lot, like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of parents would kind of be like, yeah, that's not where I'm gonna spend
Yeah, no,
my time, but.
to whomever finds it in the future, they're open to things like that.
Yeah.
The other thing we tried to email around about the step up day, we emailed the principal there with some of the other PTOs to ask if class could stay after later or have some sort of big play date in the
Oh, yeah.
somewhere, and the PTOs could go in together on like lunch or something so that they can have like a big play date. Didn't quite get a response yet, but that's okay. Things like that. So anyway, other PTOs are open more so than I've ever seen to doing things and collaborating. So these kids can like get together a little bit more throughout the city.
Something that I'm interested in forward is really streamlining instead of having so many separate events. For example, if there's a bingo night in October, can the fifth grade team run a concession stand or even make it super fun? Heather brought up that there used to be a chili cook-off or a chili sale at the craft fair. Or run a bake sale at bingo night. So that we already have an audience, we already have the room rented, we already have, people volunteering their time and coming to an event, rather than having another event the next week where we have to do it all again. I would love to really kind of streamline and capitalize on volunteer time and audience. So I think we can do some activities around Home for the Holidays, like you did last year, that, everybody's already here and thinking and saving that date. So let's be.
The raffles are a really good investment to
Yeah.
do, because we got a lot of money for that, and for that, we just had fifth grade families donate the stuff. So that was the ask for that, and that was, but I think the idea of like hitting up like when there's a group
Like,
to really hit up on a larger scale.
like this,
is
the
good.
open house that's coming up, or in the beginning of the year when all the families are coming to have something where families could buy some treats or. Her eyes are saying yes.
So anyway, it's such a busy night, but anyway, that's sort of like, that's an idea that I have, and I'm happy to be involved in fundraising or the holiday fair.
Having like committee chairs for each area has been helpful. So we have 3 parents planning the moving on ceremony, doing everything from meeting with Miss Lawler to, what do you guys do? Chris is one of them.
Save the dates.
Save the dates and all of the print stuff, the program, communicating with you guys, 4th grade parents, to help out on the night of the event, so that the 5th grade parents can go to the event, those kind of things. So that's helpful. We have someone else in charge of the popsicles, and then someone in charge of the yearbooks. So that's big. There's like a few kind of bigger areas. And then Amanda and I kind of took on some of the other things in the coordinating of everybody.
Are you doing moving on here or at the middle school year? Okay.
Yeah. And then there's like an after event.
Inside or outside?
Inside.
Inside.
Everyone's
trying to
No,
she left.
Google form that she's working on. Is it a Google form? Okay.
Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah. We're gonna have cakes, so.
We're like
distributing cake and like set up and.
It's like reading people with
So she could come see him, but then she can't stay for the.
I'm not seeing for the party. I just want to see the ceremony.
To nominate one of those board like parents.
We were talking today in our.
We'll plan on filling this in, with lots of details that. And we've been in touch with the last year's kind of throughout the year. Mostly at the beginning.
Well, I'll be here. I'm just telling you that.
If we had a question.
Did my dues, so I'm see George.
Everybody's yours too. Responding to our emails. Their kids are not here anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
And if we
shoulders
don't
are
know,
like.
we'll say we don't know, because let me tell you, budgets, spreadsheets are not our thing.
Wait a minute.
Like let's catch the nearest dollar. Yep, that looks good.
Well, I feel like our prior experience was so different.
Well, that's the thing. And of course, William was like, they're getting what? What are they getting now?
Yeah.
I mean, they were great. They had
Yeah.
umbrellas with that.
Yeah.
They couldn't do any field trips, they couldn't do.
I know, it's like, it was sad at the time, and then looking back, really sad for them.
Yeah, but they-
But
they-
it
they
was
were
not
cool.
12th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
Who went to each camp. The big deal to finish your.
High school graduation floored, and we had red capsing, like we all looked like we were bleeding.
Oh.
I remember doing this and it was just
Got
like
a
red
question.
pouring off of my fingernails.
Tell me if this is where we are in the agenda of conversation. All these ideas of fundraising opportunities. Yes, 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 yes. And then I'm thinking about this social justice framework, which is asking or challenging us to say, when we're fundraising, yes, we produce things for consumption, but also what are we producing for sustenance and to sustain ourselves? I know there's some amazing skills in this room, from Excel spreadsheets to Google Forms to finance, treasury, whatever. I'm the kind of person that would pay $40 at least to take a workshop, 1-hour workshop from whomever is the Excel guru in this room. And a bowl of chili. Because that's the gift that keeps on giving. So it's just not transactional in terms of consumption of, chili, whatever. And also that generates a crop of people who are your next treasurer or your next, planner coordinator person. And now imagine that district-wide. I'm just going to put a push pin in that idea in terms of the value of producing content that sustains us, and you get a bowl of chili on the side of it too. Who would pay $25 for that? For whatever skill that you're like, oh, I'm not good at that thing. If you start biting your nails, that's a skill that you need, and what I paid for that.
Online safety.
I was gonna say, can you find someone that will come here and teach me how to make my child's phone when they get one? Not do weird, like I can read all the apps, I know what they all mean, I can figure it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
SDM down the road. If
Okay.
they don't know, they'll help you figure out somebody that will.
But it's
That's
not,
like-
I mean, it's a
but
great
you-
idea to have like even, digging into the pool of tenants that we have, to have like some sort of like, once a month, but there's the problem, I think, and I think we can all vouch for it, that we had this year was, I said, oh, did you all?
Right.
Like finding actually the community, like we're all here and we're the same faces over and over again, and there is Miss Monroe online, there's the last one standing. But there was almost nobody online. And, even like through Facebook, through emails, and newsletters, and maybe like we even went a little overboard with that, and a lot of them ended up being, straight in the trash, but like it's been really hard to recruit people to get on to do
That is
things.
not a new PTO problem.
Right,
It
I
is-
think
and
that's,
it's-
that is the.
I think that, there's so much always competing for time.
Right.
And even in the year following a year where we didn't have a lot going on, I think people's capacity has also changed. So,
Change.
And the streamline with that.
yeah.
So that's what.
Well, mostly our thing this year was the fun run and what was the other? No, fun run and
Annual appeal.
annual appeal were like a whole school thing, and that got us our enrichment and other little thing. And then everything else was essentially 5th grade, because the other grades they do their field trips, which is their enrichment, but they don't do anything else. So it was like everything else went to 5th grade.
So I
Pretty
wonder
much.
if that was, and I know like in part of the reason in the past why it wasn't separated was just for that reason, because if you see like mom prom to support 5th grade parents, that might deter people like, oh, that's not, obviously like you did a good job promoting it and making clear it was for everyone, but if it doesn't feel like it's for the whole school, even though it might be,
Right.
that might impact like who's going, or you know what I mean? Kennedy's and stuff is different because it's like, oh, ice cream, it's, you know what I mean? Yeah, but like if you're focusing on one grade, even if it's
But see, the feedback we got was the opposite this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like, no matter what you do, there's gonna be somebody that
Like
complains
that
about it,
people
that
thought
we're
they were
like, I
going-
don't, yeah, like.
Awesome that I PTO.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have.
That's not selling the fact that we get to. What? You're not selling like a.
I'm gonna stop the recording.
There used to be community events and each grade actually ran one. And I think
That was
what
my
happened-
idea at the beginning of the
Yeah,
year.
that should be so like kindergarten,